Welcome to the inaugural edition of Daily Crane Sport. I'm here to fill you in on everything you need to know about what's going on in sports, especially those of the fighting variety. So our first segment I'd like to start with are today's quick picks. In Game 6 of the Western Conference Semis, Nikola Jokic had 34 points, 14 rebounds, and was 13 of 22 from the field to lead the Denver Nuggets past the Toronto Raptors, forcing a Game 7, 111-98. Bobby Green, I'm digging the new look. His decision win Saturday night over Alan Patrick now has him on a 3-fight win streak. LeBron James and the Los Angeles Lakers take the Western Conference semifinals 4-1 over James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and the Houston Rockets. The Buccaneers' Tom Brady super team fall short in Week 1 against the New Orleans Saints, 23-34. The defending champ, Kansas City Chiefs, are victorious in Week 1, 34-20 over the Houston Texans. Otman Azatar had a huge first-round TKO finish Saturday night against Kama Worthy. It was pretty impressive. Michelle Waterson wins against Angela Hill in what was said to be an instant classic. Ed Herman successfully fakes getting hit in the cock, then gets a Kimura. Canelo Alvarez is suing DAZN, Oscar De La Hoya, and Golden Boy Promotions for an apparent breach of contract. And finally, someone tried to snatch Cam Newton's chain. And now to kick off our bigger stories that I'll cover in a little bit more detail. First, the newly crowned Las Vegas Raiders were victorious in their first game. I cannot tell you how much this excites me, especially considering how much Raider football is enshrined in my DNA. If I was ever lucky enough to fight in the UFC, I would have Bruce Buffer say, "This man is a 1960s Oakland Raider football style fighter." The Las Vegas Raider offense was looking pretty good. I was impressed with David Carr. He really showed some poise in quite a few situations. He was 22 of 30, 239 yards and 1 touchdown, and that 1 touchdown was beautiful. It was a nice little flare out just to the pylon, put it right on the money, right where it needed to be. Nice. Josh Jacobs was also getting after that end zone all game long. He had 25 carries, 93 yards, and 3 touchdowns. There was a big 4th and inches late in the fourth quarter that the Panthers were not able to convert, and that just pretty much sealed it. And I was so happy. I would have liked to see a little bit more defense from the Raiders, but ultimately they got it done, so I can't be that mad. They're victorious 34-30 over the Carolina Panthers. Luka Doncic. If you don't know about this kid yet, I don't know what you're doing. He is unreal. I have not had a player draw my attention to the NBA like this since Kobe Bryant when I was a young child. Even though defensively, he still remains somewhat of a liability, on offense, this guy is spooky.
Back to Doncic. Doncic pulls up, three-pointer. Bang! Bang! It's good! Doncic wins the game at the buzzer!
Got it.
Here in the corner, Luka goes in. How did he do it?
Down to 8. Moves on promo. Takes it in. Hammers it home. Dallas has got the lead. Doncic throws down a sledgehammer.
His stat line for this season on 33 minutes, 28.8 points, 9.4 rebounds, 8.8 assists with 46.3% from the field. And he's 21 years old. His second season, this past season, he led the league in triple-doubles. He has 25 triple-doubles in the 2 years of his career. He is the youngest player in history with a playoff buzzer-beater victory. And in that same Game 4 against the Toronto Raptors, he put up 43 points, 17 rebounds, and 14 assists. That is the only triple-double with 40-plus points, 15-plus rebounds, and 10-plus assists in playoff history. The biggest thing is probably his experience. This guy has been signed to a professional basketball team since he was 13 years old, Real Madrid in Spain. He started for their #1 pro team at 16 years old and played until he was 18. The season in which he was 18 led his team to a championship and won season MVP and Final Four MVP. Skill-wise, his basketball IQ is unreal. Luka Doncic is the guy you want running down the court with the ball in his hands. An offense just runs so much more efficiently when this guy is dribbling the ball down the court. His size, His size is one of his biggest assets. He uses it so effectively to shield defenders from the ball without even being that athletic. He uses superior positioning to his advantage at all times. His passing is top of the line. I've never seen a guy in his second year dishing so many beautiful assists. His finishing at the rim is second to none now, and it seems like it has just developed faster and faster throughout his career. In his rookie season, sure, he was cutting to the rim every now and then, but in his second season, he does it at will. And you all know about his crazy touch on that step back three. It's so beautiful. That's why he drives to the basket all game long, is to get you thinking that, and then he just, and it's money. It is money. Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder 3 is now on the books for December 19th in Las Vegas at Allegiant Stadium. I'm telling you guys, Allegiant Stadium is going to change the fight game. For the first time in combat sports, the possibility of stadium shows in the fight capital of the world, Las Vegas, Nevada. It's huge. When Conor McGregor said it, and we'll do it in a football stadium, now it's possible in America. Early predictions, not much will change in this fight. Deontay Wilder is older. There are so many things working against him. Tyson Fury is looking better than ever. This might actually finally be his prime that we're seeing.
He puts it down! Fury's down! What an explosive round for the Gypsy King! His skill and his nimbleness.
Let me tell you.
Knockdown is scored! A body shot to
The Gypsy King, Tyson Fury.
Tyson's tactics were absolutely brilliant. He came in bigger, sturdier, and stronger. He pressed the action with really good length. He had a really strong and long jab going. Every time he got a chance and they were getting close together, he was putting his weight on Deontay, leaning on him, tiring him out. That's the psychological aspect. He literally bullied the bully, which is such an effective tactic. It just mentally fucks them right from the bat, and they just can't get anything going. Tyson Fury, I would have to say, is absolutely one of my favorite boxers. You look at all the personal problems he's been through, a cocaine and LSD addiction, ballooning up to almost 400 pounds. Just to lose all that weight and come back and fight the baddest man on the planet, Deontay Wilder, go all 12 rounds, get his head literally knocked off. He went and found it, put it back on, and stood up in 10 seconds. Not even speaking about his skills. His skills are top-notch in the heavyweight division. For someone his size, moving the way he does, it is unreal. And his boxing IQ is top-notch. That being said, the reason Deontay doesn't get this done is there are so many things working against him in this scenario. To be as successful as Deontay Wilder was, his boxing technique honestly is somewhat subpar. He has freakish power, absolutely freakish power. But several times in his career, you can see him getting outboxed, getting lit up, and then just out of nowhere, he's able to land that shot and it's over. And that has really kind of bailed him out through his career, and is one big reason, I think, in the second Tyson Fury fight. His corner didn't really know what to tell him. They said, pressure, pressure, right hand. You know, sometimes you got to know a little bit more than that. And that snowballs into he has an inferior fight IQ. What Deontay Wilder knows about boxing is me punch you, you fall. And that's not sufficient at a world-class world championship level in boxing. And the cherry on top, for the first time in his career, he has lost. That is such a big factor in fighting. In boxing, MMA, kickboxing, anything. When you are an undefeated fighter, you're used to every single night, things going your way, things turning out the way you want them to. When you are used to that in every performance and then you lose for the first time, it is the biggest question mark ever how you will return. How do I think Deontay Wilder returns? Not too different from how we've seen him before. Unfortunately, I will take Tyson Fury's stoppage in about 5 rounds. Conor McGregor has allegations against him of sexual misconduct in Corsica, France. He vigorously denies it. His manager vigorously denies it. He was taken into custody by police, questioned, and then let go. Just to let it be known, I'm a diehard Conor McGregor fan. I have been for a long time. 2012, against Ivan Buchinger in Cage Warriors, he successfully became the first dual-weight champion in the promotion's history. It was absolutely beautiful. He showed a lot of slick technique. It's a little drill in boxing where you slip the jab, at least orthodox versus orthodox, you slip the jab and then you come back over with just a looping kind of straight. He did that perfectly, but against a fighter in the opposite stance, as he threw his power hand, he just slipped to the outside and came over with that cross. Conor is arguably the most surgically precise striker in the history of the UFC. There's not much competition. The only person who is flung directly into my mind is Anderson Silva. Conor just has the reflexes, he has the accuracy, he knows where to hit you, and he knows what works for him. Early on, what drew me to Conor McGregor was how inspirational this guy was, the amount of belief he had in himself. This guy came from being on welfare in Dublin, Ireland, living in his girlfriend's apartment to what he is now. Although I do think he kind of lost himself along the way, which is incredibly sad to see. I was really excited at the beginning of 2020. I thought we had the old Conor back. It seems that we don't. And Conor, even though what I touched on today in the Daily Crane, he kind of sometimes crosses that line of cockiness and confidence. However, it is forgivable in the name of comedy. Sometimes he is absolutely hysterical. But there are just so many cons of being a Conor McGregor fan. Throwing the dolly at the bus, hitting the old man in the bar, the Floyd fight, oh my god. Now his new latest trend is not keeping his word, which is what we used to all love about him. This guy would come out and do exactly what he said he was going to do, exactly how he said he was going to do it. And if he failed, he didn't make excuses, he went back and worked even harder. So I would love to see him back, but I'm just scared I never will. So possible fights for Conor coming back, if he comes back. Obviously, there's the Khabib rematch. You know, Conor said he had a broken foot and he made a couple other excuses. Don't know if I really buy those too much. Honestly, Khabib probably beats him again. He's recently calling out Nick Diaz. I don't think that's too smart of a fight for him considering how bad of a matchup Nate is for him. Colby Covington, another person who I think might not be the best matchup for Conor, even though Conor is capable of sleeping him extremely fast. Or Justin Gaethje. I guess we wouldn't be able to see that fight though unless Justin beats Khabib. And speaking of which, for the final story today, UFC 254, the main event, Justin Gaethje versus Khabib Nurmagomedov. This is the most important fight in lightweight history. You have Khabib, the Eagle Nurmagomedov, 28-0, arguably one of the most dominant fighters in MMA history, going up against Justin, the highlight Gaethje, who is literally should be the textbook definition of a fucking savage. So I have to touch on the dominance of Khabib. You know, how is he able to do this to everybody? He's one of the highest fight IQs I've ever seen in my life. He knows what works for him, and he knows how to use the things that work to make the things that don't also work. You do not want to feel Khabib's breath on the back of your neck. And you know that while you're striking, so that makes you tentative. And as you get tentative, he is able to land his strikes too. And then you start thinking about that, bam, he takes you down. His endurance and pressure are unrivaled in MMA. This guy literally after fights looks like he could fight 4 more times. His approach is so simple but so effective. He's able to just grab a hold of you, get you against the cage. He just fidgets and works you down onto the ground, traps your hips, pins him to the canvas, beats your face in before he chokes you out. The implications for Khabib's legacy are huge in this fight. This would push him to 29-0. The rumor is he will not fight past 30 fights. If he's able to win this fight, it could perfectly set up a super fight with George St. Pierre. That being said, Justin Gaethje is standing between him and that, and let's not act like that's not Justin Gaethje. Gaethje entered the UFC as the most technically effective game brawler we've ever seen. His chin is made of absolute granite. He will not stop coming forward. And now that he switched his style around and he's become a smart counter striker, he's even better. A big X factor in this fight is Justin Gaethje's MMA grappling and how little we've seen of it. We've literally seen almost none. I've heard Justin himself in interviews say, you know, I just don't wrestle because I've convinced myself this is not wrestling. Well, Justin, in this fight, we need to know about your wrestling, bro. I know he is an incredibly decorated collegiate wrestler, so that at least gives him some credentials. But like I said, we've seen almost no grappling from him in his MMA career. I have heard Justin Gaethje say he will try to meet Khabib's takedowns with brute force. When he shoots, he's not going to run away. He's going to stand there and meet him with force. And he's not going to back up. He's going to go forward. Now, Justin Gaethje's striking, Trevor Whitman has done a beautiful job with him. I remember watching the Donald Cerrone fight, and I was like, man, he has improved leaps and bounds. He comes in and he's so relaxed, he's so calm and so patient, keeps his distance, but he's explosive enough that when you miss, he can slip and close the distance and hit you hard. And those leg kicks, oh my god. Especially how he's able to get into like clinching range and still kick in close. He has tremendous cardio, as we saw against Tony Ferguson. He went all 5 rounds and beat the boogeyman himself. And his power is no joke. Even though we've seen Khabib show a great chin, he has not been hit by Justin Gaethje. So to speak on how I see the fight playing out, I'm thinking that we will see some striking exchanges, but ultimately I don't think Gaethje will be able to stop the takedowns every time. I think Gaethje will get taken down and probably even will get up a few times, and we will see a good bit of striking. However, Khabib is a smart defensive striker. All that against Conor McGregor, he was able to avoid the left hand beautifully. So if he can avoid that, who's to say he can't avoid any weapons Justin Gaethje has? I think Khabib will eventually get the takedown. He will smother. He will put some damage on Justin Gaethje. Tough as Justin Gaethje is, we have seen him finish before. I'm going to say Khabib. It's going to go all 5 rounds, split decision, 48-47. It will be one of the greatest fights we've ever seen, mark my words.